It's such a blessing to be here, and it's such an awesome thing to have so many people on this call for this important topic of the state of our youth. As we all know, and as you all know, DJJ, Department of Juvenile Justice, is one of the most comprehensive juvenile justice systems in the entire country. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Because when we meet with other states around this country, very few of them have a prevention arm. Most of them, they have probation, they have residential detention. Even not all state agencies operate the juvenile justice system. A lot of times there may be a county or what have you. But with the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice, I am honored as the Assistant Secretary to be over the Office of Prevention Services, because we take it very seriously when it comes to prevention. So the state of our youth, our youth live in such a complex world. They experience so many complex situations every day. They're challenged. All of you work with children. You are our partners. When I think about Pay Center for Girls, when I think about the Public Defender's Office, who is a part of our juvenile justice boards and councils, when I think about the school board, I'm going to talk a little bit about the school board and how we're partnering, doing some creative things with the schools, because our vision is to start impacting children early on, meaning those elementary school age children. That's where we got to start. We can't start when they're 10 or 12 or 14. We have to start with early prevention, intervention services at an early age. When I think about Boys and Girls Club, who's on here, these are partners with us that are partnering with the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. Each child, when you think of the state of our youth, each child have barriers. They have obstacles. Our goal in the prevention services is to meet the children and families where they are. Meet them where they are, meaning that you got to get to where their needs are. You got to understand what their needs are. And the number one thing I say to our staff and our team is that we are all about customer service. And when you are working with children and families and you make them as important as they should be, customer service is the key. And so here is how we address the state of our youth. I'm going to tell you.
Secretary Sims, let's go to some more introductions.
Okay.
And I know where you're going, and I want to flow into that. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right, so we will kick it to Casey Dennis, who is the CEO of Boys and Girls Club of the Big Bend. And Casey, if you can introduce yourself and just give us a little piece about the work that you all are doing.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Once again, my name is Casey Dennis. I'm the CEO and president of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Big Bend. I had the pleasure of being a part of this organization for the last 17 years, changing lives, saving lives right here in the Big Bend area. Currently, we have 7 club sites in the Big Bend area, 4 in Leon County and 3 in Gaston County. Really proud of all of our club sites, but Ms. Sims just spoke about, meeting those kids where they are. And here in Leon County, we have a unique partnership with Tallahassee Housing Authority. So we are in those communities where those kids really need us the most. Joe Louis Street, Grady Road, 2525 Texas Street. We have clubs right there in the heart of those communities where those kids really need services and really need our staff the most. We serve kids ages 6 to 18, Monday through Friday, with lots of different various programs. Of course, we're helping them with homework, but we've got programs teaching kids about refraining from risk-taking behaviors and all sorts of things. But the main thing is we have a positive adult figure there in all those communities where those kids have an opportunity to learn and grow. So once again, I'm Casey Dennis. I'm happy to be a part of this call.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Casey. Next, we'll go to Mr. Leroy Smith, who is the CEO and Executive Director of Diamonds in the Rough, who is doing some unique work. So, Mr. Smith, if you kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing. You're on mute. We still can't hear you. While we're waiting, I'll kick it to Ms. Jessica Yeary, who is our Chief Public Defender. Ms. Yeary, take it away.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Yeary. I'm the public defender here in the Second Judicial Circuit. Our office is made up of 60 plus attorneys who represent all people that have been accused and arrested of a crime in our circuit, which is Leon, Gadsden, Franklin, Jefferson, Wakulla, and Liberty counties. My specific caseload that I took on after being a trial lawyer for almost 12 years was direct filed children. So when we talk about the state of our youth, I represent children who are being charged with crimes in the adult system. And it is a traumatic and heinous process that I hope no longer exists by the time I retire one day. So I'm very interested to be here and hear from everyone and talk with you all about what our children are facing in the criminal legal system, what they're up against as far as sentencing options, restorative justice options, and getting them everything they need to get out of the criminal legal system. So I'm very excited to be here and look forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, so next we'll go to Dr. Willie Williams with Pace Center for Girls.
Hey, good morning. I am Dr. Willie Williams. I am the program director for Pace Center for Girls, where Pace provides a comprehensive program of academic services where the students from middle school to high school transition just like they would in your normal schools with the district. We also have an awesome social services team consisting of about 4 MSWs and 1 LCSW that provide not only counseling, but case management services. So we have that comprehensive service that is always provided to our girls at all times. We serve about 70 girls. So we're glad to be providing those services to some of our most at-risk young ladies throughout this Big Bend area.
Awesome, thank you. And Mr. Smith, are you ready now? Still no audio. All right, so we'll kick it to Dr. Michelle Gale, who is one of the assistant superintendents for Leon County Schools. And her main focus is community. And that's what she does all day. Dr. Gale, take it away.
Good morning again, everyone. My name is Dr. Michelle Gale. I'm with Leon County School District. And as LaShawn said, I'm Assistant Superintendent for Professional and Community Services. I serve in, you name it, I serve in that area. Leon County Schools has 30,000 plus students ranging from pre-K. We have kids as early as 3 years old to past 12th grade adult, because we also have Lively Technical College. We have close to 50 schools within our district. Some of them are what you would call traditional schools, but we also have some special sites. I'm proud to say that just about everyone on here is a partner in some way, shape, or form with Leon County Schools. And if you're not, I'm going to be reaching out to you. I agree with Ms. Alice Sims that this is a very complex and challenging time. 20 months ago, right when we thought that the state of education, the state of our youth was somewhat stabilized, or we knew what the barriers were, then came COVID. And since then comes a whole new level of complexity, challenges, and barriers. But I promise you this, at Leon County Schools, we are focused on partnering with the community, because it's going to take all of us to keep our system moving forward. So I look forward to this conversation, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Gale. Mr. Smith, are you ready? Do you have audio yet? I think he clicked off and he's going to click back on. So when he comes back on, we'll let him tell you all a little bit about himself. But he is the executive director of Diamonds in the Rough. and they're actually mentoring kids through sports, which is kind of a unique model. And so we'll let him talk a little bit more about that when he comes back. So I do want to kick it back to Secretary Sims. So I had an opportunity to work with DJJ Prevention for many years, and she was kind of starting to talk a little bit about that. But one of the unique things about Leon County, about the state of Florida, is that this whole concept of prevention. And so I know there's a lot of misconceptions around the Department of Juvenile Justice, but Secretary Sims, if you could talk to us a little bit more about some of the prevention efforts that you all are working on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Absolutely. Actually, we don't have enough time for me to talk about all the prevention efforts that we're doing, but just to kind of talk about a few things and to go back to what I was saying earlier. When you think about the Department of Juvenile Justice with Florida, we serve in prevention. I want you to listen at this. In prevention alone, we serve annually approximately 26,000 children. And I said the word children for a reason. These are children. We serve 26,000. Mr. Casey Dennis, Dr. Willie Williams, all of them are providers with us. That being said, if you would think about it, in fiscal year 15-16, the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice arrested over 69,000 youth. Since then, in fiscal year 2019-20, those arrest rates have declined to 45,000. Now that's still too many, but I will tell you this. We believe because of what we're doing in prevention services is helping those numbers to be an all-time low in 40 years. So let me tell you some of the things that we're doing in prevention. Number one, we believe that providing opportunities for these youth to succeed is the number one thing. Number two is we believe in increasing our partnerships and increasing prevention services. How are we doing that? We're partnering with law enforcement. I think I saw Ms. Smith on here. We are partnering with law enforcement, Leon County Sheriff's Office, Gaston County Sheriff's Office, Madison County Sheriff's Office, Broward County Sheriff's Office. I can go on and on. How are we partnering with the Sheriff's Office? Because what we do is we offer what we call GAP discussions. GAP stands for Gaining Appreciation by Adjusting Perspective. I'm giving you one thing that we do. That's when youth and law enforcement come together in a forum and they have a conversation just like we're doing right now. And they talk and they give their heart. They talk about things that they're faced with. What do you do when law enforcement stop you? What do you do? How does law enforcement respect young people? Tell me how powerful that is. That is what we do. And since the inception in 2012, we have over 60 agencies, law enforcement agencies who are partnered with us. And we have served over 15,000 youth that come together in that forum. I think when you come together and talk about those, particularly with a lot of the violence and stuff that we're having in our countries. The other thing that we do, since we have Dr. Gale on here, we just incorporated elementary school empowerment series. What that is where we work with young people and we go into the schools. We're also partnering with Volusia County schools, Miami-Dade schools, and we're teaching the young children in elementary school about kindness, about bullying prevention. These are things that we have to do, Dr. Gale, in order for us to stop a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. These are the things we got to target these children early on in elementary school in prevention. Nobody don't talk about that in other states because they don't have prevention services. These are the things that we're doing. One other thing, and I'll let you go to someone else because I can talk long. One other thing that we're doing is called Fit Families. We believe in the Office of Prevention Services. You cannot work with the child without the family, without the parent, without the guardian. And so what we have been doing in prevention services, we go around the state of Florida and we recognize and honor families who have overcome adversity, families who have overcome challenges, and we honor them and we honor those youth because they have overcome adversity. They're doing better in school. They're graduating from high school. And so Those are a few things, Ms. LaShawn, that we're doing in prevention, and I'll give somebody else an opportunity.
I love it. I love it. We love your passion. You know, it's always amazing when a person can talk about what they do and not have to read about it. So love your passion. I want to go to Casey because Casey and I were actually having a conversation recently, and he was telling me about some of the authentic conversation that he had with the kids. And one of the things about youth is everybody think they know what youth want, but they really don't. So Casey, can you just kind of share a little bit with us? What are the kids saying?
Definitely. So I recently had a really candid conversation with our youth in the Joe Louis Street Springfield apartment complex. So we set them down. I just wanted to know, what's going on? How can adults help you guys? And the first thing that they said that really stuck with me is they said, we need discipline. We need discipline. And that was really eye-opening for me, because just like you said, a lot of adults kind of think the kids are running away from discipline, or, those types of things. But these kids say, hey, we need discipline. This was a group of kids. Some of them have had, minor brushes with law enforcement, but that was the first thing out of each one of their mouths is that we need discipline. Then the second thing they talked about was definitely having that positive adult, and how much that really meant in their lives, to have somebody that they could come and talk to about anything, about, different struggles that they're facing in their homes. A lot of those kids talked about, of course, COVID, and how, a lot of their parents received some assistance, but now some of those things are having to, pay back things, and, parents are really struggling, and how that has affected those kids and make them, just feel really, really bad about their parent situation. So it was a really eye-opening, just conversation. The kids came in just raw as ever, but they really let us know about a lot of the things that they were looking for, and that they wanted us to know as adults and people in their lives. They talked about the school system and about the teachers, and how they really wanted the teachers to be more involved in their lives and things like that. So definitely was a great conversation.
There's someone that's unmuted. If you can unmute yourself. Was that you, Mr. Smith? You have audio now?
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay. So if you'll introduce yourself and introduce your program, and then we'll lead you into the conversation.
Okay, good morning, guys. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm Leroy Smith, CEO down the road. We have a mentoring cycle that extends from the professional level to grade school. This basically to get the kids identity on what they want to become, so they can stay on the right path of success. We've serviced over 1,500 kids, and we've helped kids earn scholarships money for academic and athletic money amounting over $2.3 million. Our goal is to help diversify socioeconomic statuses in order to help economic growth. So basically, we have a tutoring program, we have a identity and mentoring program, and we have a college and career readiness program. So I thank you guys for having me.
Awesome, thank you. All right, mute it out for me. There we go. All right, so Casey, you said something that was really important, and you kind of talked about families. And I want to kick it over to Dr. Willie, because one of the things that I know is PACE kind of does this whole concept of wraparound services. So Dr. Willie, if you could kind of just talk a little bit about, and this will kind of answer Ms. Edith's question a little bit, some of the trauma-informed things that you all do, and not only working with the girls, but working with families.
All right, good morning, everyone. And so first of all, thank you, LaShawn, and to UPHS and Amber for just providing this platform of so many professionals to gather together and talk about our youth, which should be a priority on everybody's agenda, especially as we continue to take on this thing called COVID. As I looked throughout the screen, I saw a lot of many faces that I've had the pleasure of working with throughout my almost 20 years in working with youth, from the DCF to the city to so many different areas. So I consider myself amongst friends. And in saying that, And as we get to talking about trauma-informed care, I think we have to agree and come to the reality that we're facing something new. When we talk about the state of the union and the state of where our youth are, none of us that I know of, and then definitely within my 44 years of life, have never seen anything that has ever shut down cities, states, and countries. And in that time, we lost a lot of our children. We lost them to different avenues. We lost them academically, and a lot of them we lost emotionally and mentally. And we're still trying to find them in those places. And so when we talk about trauma-informed care, like I said, at PACE, we have an academic team that does provide the services. But thank goodness for our social services team, who oftentimes during the height of COVID had to go out to homes and find girls and feed families and take hygiene products, simple things that we took for granted that we learned during COVID were so dear. And so now we're toward the part of really trying to calculate and find some ground to stand on and see what are the true numbers of the children we lost. What are the true numbers of the children that are suffering now from mental and emotional mental health issues? What does the anxiety look like? Depression look like? What are those youth who have picked up substance abuse issues now? Those youth that are still struggling. That is where we're at now when we talk about the state of our youth, is what are the numbers looking like? Because we're going to need to brace ourselves and put on our seatbelt, because we've all been working around the clock now. But I believe we're about to hit into overtime, LaShawn. I think it's overtime now.
Yeah, I definitely think it takes some unique ways of working with the kids. You know, folklore and tradition and what we've always done definitely won't work anymore. Not at all. I want to go to Dr. Gale, and then once I go to Dr. Gale, I'm going to go to Jessica. But Dr. Gale, we see you in the community sometimes to 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and it's just amazing. You must have some kind of energy shot that I need to, get so that I can, match that energy that you have. But I know a couple months ago we had some conversation with you, and you were kind of sharing with us, what the needs were at that time. And now that there is no more digital academy and everybody is for the most part back in school, what are you seeing in the district? What are the primary needs? Because again, like I said, on the outside looking in, everybody feels like they know what kids need, but they really don't. So if you could give us some insight.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this platform. Let me start with, we also haven't found all of our kids. I will say that we have a Department Intervention Services, and as Dr. Rogers, Kathleen Rogers, who is another assistant superintendent, likes to say, they're boots on the ground, and they'll go knocking on doors and trying to actually find kids. We have also begun a relationship with a company called Datum. And they have a very unique way of trying to find missing students. We don't have that many. I shouldn't say that. We have less than 500. And they could be in another school system. They could be still at home. They could be with grandma in another state away, but we have to find those. For those kids who have come back to school, to answer your question, LaShawn, it's almost, even if they were brick and mortar from the time that we could come back brick and mortar, it's almost like they have to be acquainted with the whole social system of school again. You have a lot of trauma with our students. Dr. Willie reached out to me. We know each other on a couple of levels. He reached out to me and talked about some of his kids and not having food, not having basic necessities, and so on and so forth. And we were able to partner and work together because, believe it or not, charter school, private school, whatever school, they're all our kids, okay? We have a lot of kids who have gone through trauma. For that reason, I'm proud of the partnership that Leon County Schools has formed or continue to form with This Village and other agencies that provide additional counseling for our kids, in addition to the counselors at school. We've been able to hire other social workers because, as Casey said, some of the kids are like, okay, when COVID happened, there may have been stimulus money or this, that, and the other thing. Well, all of that is gone. Okay. And now a lot of parents may be suffering from the effects of COVID. Parents are upset. That gets transferred to kids transferred to school. And the trauma is not just with the students. I know this is the state of our students, but it's also with the adults, our teachers. Our teachers, and I've been in education for a minute, so to speak. I started off as a teacher. Teachers are trained to deliver curriculum in a particular area. Yes, they do become a doctor, a nurse, a social worker, this or that or the other thing. But for the most part, this can be very tiring to teachers. We've had a number of teachers say, you know what, I'm done. Great teachers who have decided that this is too much to take on with the trauma that our students have. I want to take a moment, if I can, with the time that I have remaining. Sable Palm Elementary School, which is a community partnership school. They receive services from Children's Home Society. Of course, we're a partner there, Leon County Schools, Florida A&M University, as well as Florida State. They provide wrap-around services for those students. So if a teacher sees that, you know, every time she puts something on the board, Michelle's squinting, or, you know, she has to get right up on the board, that teacher can do a referral for Michelle to have an eye exam, because maybe my mom, we don't have a doctor, we don't have this or the other thing. Those services can be rendered through that school with parent permission. Maybe Michelle is, you know, she can't concentrate because she has a toothache. Okay, we're presently working with Bond Community Center to provide a dental clinic that is there on that campus. So they are a unique school in that they have really partnered with the community. Every school, and it's not just based upon SES, every school should be a community partnership school, and we do have partners. But there's a lot of trauma. There is, not to mention that gap with learning. Okay, and you're sitting in class and it's like, wait a minute, I haven't been in class. You have kids who left during the spring. They were in the 5th grade. Now they're back. They're in a whole different school. They're in middle school with, instead of 1 teacher, they have 6 teachers. So there's a lot that our kids are dealing with. Trying to get boots on the ground with intervention services, boots on the ground with social workers, with psychologists, with counselors, with teachers, with wonderful community people like you, because it's going to take all of us to get these kids back to where they need to be.
Thank you, Dr. Gale. Thank you very, very much. Yes, give me 1 second. One of the key things, Dr. Gale, that I love that you said was the partnerships. Mm-hmm. And so one of those guiding principles and values that I live by is creating partnerships. And I think that's super important, because we cannot do this without our community partners and friends. Dr. Willie, I know you wanted to hop in and say something, and then I'm going to kick it to Jessica.
Yeah, because so I see there's some questions in reference to what are the strategies being used to inform care, and a lot of questions in reference to trauma-informed care. And really, I'm a tailor off of what Dr. Gale was saying, because Dr. Gale is exactly right. This has not only been a heavy load on just our youth, but those who work with and serve our youth. And we have lost a lot of ground soldiers because they have burnt out. And so in doing that, one of the things that we need to do is kind of huddle back up, bring everybody in, and really take an assessment on what do we have left to serve our youth, who all is left, or what are the resources we have, and kind of like what Edith is asking about the trauma-informed care strategies. This has been new territory. We have had to have teachers who were normally used to just teaching geometry have to take a different approach now and see, well, let me see first, how are you doing? How are things at home? And so everybody's had to reprogram how they do things normally, just to be able to engage with these youth on some kind of level. And so we're basically in the process of assessing that and assessing how we've been reprogrammed to approach and engage with our youth. And so I think that's one of the things, like you said, with partnerships, we need to continue having these discussions and bringing the partners back together to see who's still remaining at the table, because this has taken a toll. this is definitely taking a toll on the youth services area and those who serve them.
Absolutely. I want to kick it. We actually have a teacher on the phone who's an ESC teacher who's on her planning, which is Miss Stephanie Talbert. So she has to run and go to another classroom, but I wanted to just have her unmute for a second. She's over at Griffin Middle School, and when you talk about different types of program, she has one that she's actually not only working with Griffin, but working in the Frenchtown community. So Miss Talbert, if you'll just give us a few words, your perspective as a teacher in the district navigating this pandemic, and then just talking about some of the unique things you're doing.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be able to even be in this forum and be able to talk to people that have hearts and passions like I do for our youth. So, LaShawn, I appreciate you putting me into this as well. I just want to first say, as a teacher, it is very difficult to relate to these kids. It takes a little bit more than our teaching to establish a rapport to where we can reach that inner core level to just let them know that they're loved. My nonprofit is Sisters Mentoring Sisters, and I work with the at-risk girls in the 32304 area code. And when I'm talking and we're talking, they're not necessarily talking about school. They're talking about the environment that they live in. And I want to be one of those people that I'm not afraid to go into those environments. I grew up in this area, so I came back to give back. And the meetings that we have help tremendously for them to pour out what they see, what they're being affected by. And what it does for them with the group is it lets them know that they're not the only ones that feel the way that they feel. Therefore, we're a camaraderie of sisterhood together to figure these things out. So I'm excited about what's happening. I'm excited about what I'm doing in this community because I get a great feedback. But being a teacher and coming from this community and attending this school, my insight, it works very well. I can listen to them with the challenges that they have, and I don't solve the problems. We solve the problems together. But as a group, they're not in it alone. And so I'm sure that I will be seeing and hearing from some of you, I hope so, to help me help them as well as help you help the other ones around. Like I said, I'm excited. I'm on my planning. I gotta go. I got an emergency. They need me with the student with the mental health issues. So I do so much more than just the ESC. I don't know why. I've been given the talent of calming the worst of them down, and so I got to run because she's having a fit. But I just want to tell Mr. Gordon, thank you so much. And I finally get to introduce myself and what I do as well. Y'all guys continue, and I'll try to pop back on in a minute. But thank you so much, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you, Ms. Talbert. We appreciate you and all you do. Thank you so much. So I want to kick it to Jessica, Miss Jessica Yeary. And one of the things I would love for Jessica to talk about, when Jessica came in as the public defender, her whole mission was to really, really change some things. And a lot of that was really honing in on the fact that the public defender's office is a human service agency and they do a lot of great social service work. So Jessica, if you could kind of talk to us about your philosophy for serving kids and how you kind of guided your team since you started in your new role.
Sure, thank you. I think it's interesting too to kind of pop in at this point because we do see the prevention piece, right? We do have DJJ, we have them working to try and prevent allegations of crime on the front end. We have our schools and our educators who are, complete angels walking this earth. And then cases come to our office, right? I want to start first always, which is what I'm preaching to these kids, you're innocent initially, okay? You have this presumption of innocence. We need to protect your rights. We need to educate them on their interactions with law enforcement, on what they need to do to ensure that they're safe and that they aren't falsely accused of something. From there, they come into a court system where candidly, everything is stacked against them. And what I'm trying to do in our office is not only encourage the buy-in from the court system and from the prosecutors, which is a very difficult piece, but to tell the kids that we are going to show up for them, right? That we are going to make the appointments when we need it, that, we are going to be in court with them every time. We're not going to just continue their cases and not talk to them. When they're in custody, it has become a significant priority of mine and the attorneys in our office to talk with them in custody. And I know I have, folks who care here on this call. There's over 1,200 people in the Leon County Jail right now. And that affects two things. That affects not only the kids that are incarcerated, but also the kids who have a parent incarcerated. And I think we're naive as leaders if we don't address that piece. FSU just put out a research study last week that I was following. Over 50% of kids in one study they did in a hospital, over 50% of the kids that were diagnosed with trauma and stress disorders, psychosis, suicidal thoughts and attempts had an incarcerated loved one. And so we have to address that piece. What we're trying to do is, boots on the ground lawyers in the courtroom, is tell our prosecutors and our judges that we have to do this differently. We have to have a restorative justice piece. We have to get away from the punitive incarceration piece of the criminal legal system, because we all know it's not working, right? It's not reducing recidivism. It's not getting families whole again. So we are working with our community partners. Joining UPHS was one of the first things I wanted to do, because I wanted to make sure our lawyers knew what all the available resources were for reentry and for support for people that have come into contact with the legal system. So we've definitely prioritized that. And I'll tell you, it's working. In the cases where we resolve a criminal case with a sentence that has a mental health component, substance abuse treatment, inpatient counseling and services, restorative justice, that is directly affecting our clients in a positive way to where they're not coming back into the system. What I follow every single day is Brian Stevenson. We were talking about it before everybody got on here, the Equal Justice Initiative and his story, Just Mercy. I know you all have tons of free time, but if you had an opportunity to read that book and really get to, the core of how we as a society deal in the criminal legal system, how we treat people, and I give this example all of the time. I've got two boys, right? They're in trouble a lot. They have consequences. They lose a privilege, they go into timeout, but then they come back into our family and they are loved and they are respected and we move forward as a family. We have to do that as a society, where we are in the criminal legal system. And I think we're getting there. Specifically though, with children, Florida leads the nation in direct files. Okay, Florida leads the nation in charging children as adults, and we have to do better. The adult system is no place for a child. I'll follow up with some links for some of the legislation that we're trying to pass this year, but punishing children in that way is not humane. I mean, it wasn't until 2005 that the courts finally said we couldn't execute children. So I hope that we're moving in a way to get away from that punitive piece and really start holistically and restoratively looking how we treat kids in the system.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a lot of questions that we kind of prepared for you all, but this is a community conversation and we have lots of leaders, lots of providers who work with kids on the call today. So we did want to open the floor up to see if anyone has any questions. If you do have a question, you can raise your hand and someone from our team will be sure to answer your question. So feel free to do that if you have any questions, and we'll go ahead and open the floor for a few questions right now. And I'm scrolling through my screen so I can see. Miss Donna with Indaba Theater. And Miss Donna, I'll let her tell you a little bit about what she does, but she actually does this whole restorative theater, spoken word thing, which is just amazing because the arts is very therapeutic for kids. So Donna, before you ask your question, if you'll just share a little bit about the great work you're doing.
Absolutely, Mrs. Gordon. My name is Donna Pearl Cotterell, and I am founder and president of Indaba Theater. We have been in existence since 2005. We got our 501c3 10 years ago in 2011. We just opened our first performance arts center here in Tallahassee. This is the first time we've ever had a building. We've always shared space with other nonprofits. Our mission is to inspire, empower, uplift, and to create healthy outlets of self-expression using theater as therapy to help people overcome obstacles in their life. So we use techniques that are non-traditional. One in particular is using Theater of the Oppressed, which was created by Augusto Boal, a Brazilian playwright, who originally, when he created it, was to help overcome political oppression. But when he found himself exiled in a Scandinavian country and saw a high suicide rate, he realized that people had what he called a cop in the head that stopped them from forward progress. So he then used those same techniques to help people who may have been impacted by sexual assault or rape or domestic violence. And I actually got to meet someone who worked with him in South Africa with survivors of sexual assault and rape. And I'm a theater person all day. I started taking theater classes when I was 15. And I feel like it saved my life. Out of 7 children, I was the only one that went to college, have 2 master's degrees. And I was headed on a road at the age of 13 that could have taken me a totally different direction. So my reason for starting Indaba Theater was to help engage students who, like myself, may have been making bad choices, but to build their self-esteem, their self-confidence, their self-awareness, so that they could steer their own ship. We are here in the Bond community. We are easily accessible from FAMU Way. We're directly on FAMU campus. We're on 1872 Mill Street in the new Railroad Village, which is down the street from Railroad Square. We are just opening up our workshops, and I'm putting together, I'm going to ask Dr. Gale to please send me her information, because we're going to do a mini workshop next Wednesday from 9 to 11. One of my FSU students, he and I are going to do an improv workshop, kind of just to get the kids motivated from 9 to 1, and so that they can experience what we have to offer. But theater for me and the arts, and theater encompasses all the arts. It's very therapeutic and helps kids express themselves in ways that traditional therapy sometimes doesn't allow. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My question actually was about youth or juvenile offenders who are being tried as adults. Like, what is the qualifications? Because I have 2 students. I used to teach too. I've been a middle school math teacher off and on for 11 years. I actually taught drama at a couple of different schools. But I have a couple of students who I taught my first year here in Tallahassee 7 years ago. One was in 6th grade, the other was in 8th grade. About 2 years ago, pre-COVID, each of them got caught up in assault, I'm going to say a stolen vehicle, and both of them, one was 15, one was 16, they're going to be tried as adults. And it broke my heart because I couldn't understand. There was no, there was no one who was killed. One of the young men actually did have a gun, and he shot at a homeowner. They had broken, so it was a break-in where there was a shooting. He's 15. The other one was 16. There was a truck that was stolen. Kids being kids, they parked the truck in his driveway. So of course, they found the truck. They found him chilling in the truck. And I'm like, those are teenagers, and teenagers we know do stupid things. And I don't know what's happened since then, but I would really love to know how do we determine when a kid is going to be tried as an adult?
Sure. So it's the state attorney's discretion. I mean, the law clearly states that they have the complete authority, the elected state attorney and the prosecutors, to decide when they want to charge a child in the adult system. They have full discretion where on certain allegations, but age 14 to 15 is a discretionary, and then ages 16 and 17 can be mandatory. There is a sentence back provision. So essentially, when we get the case and we're the lawyers defending, we in some cases can still argue to the judge that the child should be treated as a child and they should be sentenced to either a DJJ sentence or a youthful offender sentence if proven guilty, right? What we see a lot of times with kids, unfortunately, is that there's 4 or 5 kids together and they, under principal theory, charge everybody together. And I give this example to my kids all the time. I can drive you up to the bank and never get in to rob it with you, but I'm just as guilty under the law, unfortunately, as the ones who did the robbery. Now, do I think that the sentences should reflect the actual culpability of everyone? Yes. but we don't see that oftentimes. So that decision is solely up to the state attorney's office. They decide if, when, and who. I appreciate your question because it's oftentimes a lot of questions that I get, which is why are some kids charged as adults? Is it based on their history? Is it based on their charge? I can't explain why the state decides to make the decisions that they do. I will tell you, I currently represent 20 kids charged as adults right now in our circuit, and one of them is white.
Wow.
So it is, you know, a traumatic, horrific process, right? And the bigger part of this too, I think for all of us adults on the line, is I'm talking to parents and having this conversation and saying, you know, why can't my kid go to a DJJ program? Why can't my kid get, you know, this kind of restorative justice obligation? You know, why can't we work it out in that way? And the policies and laws are not set up for that. I will tell you this, we are fighting it every single day. And it really means a lot to have partners in our community like you all who are also saying this is not the way. Oftentimes when I can get someone to come in on behalf of a child and say, hey, he has been in our program, he was a Boys and Girls Club, he was my student at Griffin, those things matter so much. So I appreciate you all jumping in there.
Thank you. Great question, Donna. David, I see you have your hand up, and then I'm going to go to Leroy. David.
Thank you, LaShawn. Good morning, everyone. I happen to be doing work in this area myself, but more dealing with workforce development. And but when I hear about young people being tried as adults, put into adult jails and adult prisons, you know, that's really bad. And I wanted to ask the attorney, is her office properly funded? Does she need additional funding to bring on additional attorneys to help you to represent these clients? That's my question.
So let me put a pin in that, and Jessica, I'll come back to you because I want to shift the conversation and then weave this back in. So one of the things that we know, one approach does not work for all kids. And Dr. Willie, I see you unmuted as well. So I kind of want to go to Leroy because a lot of what I've heard from kids over the years, and just when I'm working with kids say sports saved my life. If it wasn't for sports, then I don't know where I'll be. So Leroy, if you'll just kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that you all are doing with kids through sports. You mentioned the athletic scholarships and exposure, you know, hey, let's get you the scholarship so you can go away to school and you could do some great things. Talk to us a little bit about that. You on me?
Yeah. Well, basically, first and foremost, we check the help the kids identify their goals. You know, because you know that evaluation piece allows us to know the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the challenges that the kids face. So once we do that evaluation piece, we give the kids some obtainable goals to see that, and you know, be a sports or whatever. So let's take sports per se, and once we give the kids the goal, we come back and do checkup. So basically, we give the kids the accountability factor to follow suit to achieve these goals. And for our organization, this has worked because it also gives the kid a voice. The kid will tell you, if you listen to a kid and you give them some structure, they will tell you what they want. So in the mix of that, you know, we mentor the kids. Okay, being that I played ball and I also was a teacher for 12 years. I taught physics. And so we give the kid the academic goal. We give the kid the sport, the athletic goal, and also we give the kid the spiritual goal. We just partnered with the LCA, Mr. Kid from Corbin. We just partnered together, and both of us, played football on the highest level. So we can guide these kids in all these areas. So we're basically molding the whole kid. Then whatever these kids are they come from different environments. So we show them the environment that they're seeking. So we take them on college tours. We take them to different places to expose them not only to the athletic side, but to the academic side. So when they come back to their original environment, their thought process is different. They remove themselves from the people that they probably wouldn't normally hang around because they have these. And I can't do these. I can't continue to do these crazy things because this is what I want in life. I have another part of my organization called Win-Win. Win-Win stands for, it's an acronym for when you find out what's important now, work is necessary. So whatever is important to you, you need to work to get it. But we're going to give you the mentor in the tutelage to get there. It's like if you guys seen the Wizard of Oz, we're giving them the yellow brick road to follow to a path to success. So that model has worked for me in my organization as well as the kids in my organization. And I had one kid that was in the DJJ system, and he came out, and the kid ended up getting a scholarship to play football. And that was a blessing. That was a blessing. Everyone was in tears, but I used the same model to help that kid, change his mindset, because it all boils down to the mindset, because these kids come from traumatic circumstances, traumatic environments. So we have to hear them first and then show them. We have to take them places so they can see another environment that's attainable to them.
It's the gift of exposure. I love
Yes.
it.
Yes.
It. Gift of exposure. So I want to go to Dr. Willie, and then I'm gonna kick it up to Dr. Gale.
And so first, let me thank Jessica Yuri, because I know the kind of work her and her office does on a daily basis, going to fight for our students. And so thank you for all the work that you and your office do on a daily basis, fighting for these youth that have taken a U-turn or a misstep. But I think one of the things we need to focus on is what do we put in place to make Jessica's job easier and to limit the amount of students that are going her way. And that answer is right before us. That answer is already on this call. And what we have to admit is that most of our students nowadays, first of all, they don't see titles. You can't approach them as Dr. such and such, Captain such. They don't see titles because most of them don't even give their parents titles. And so we have to do away with the titles. We have to meet them where they're at. And so while they don't see titles, they do see a Mr. Casey at the Boys and Girls Club. They know Mr. Leroy over there, Win. They know Miss Alice Sims and Ernie when they're at the Ernie's football camp. So they know the people that come to them and that they build relationships with. And so the programs already exist. We don't have to create nothing new. We just have to fund and provide resources to what's already working and make sure we keep them working and connecting with the youth. And we have to have a variety of programs out there, because there are so many kids. They're not just straight A kids and then bad kids. There are kids that are in the middle that are C kids. There are kids all across the spectrum that need something. Every kid needs something. And we can't just talk about it. We got to put them with people that can model what they need to be. And until we make that connection, there'll always be a disconnect in communication and a disconnect in engagement. And so we need to start addressing it. It's not biochemistry. It's not any kind of complicated math, because I can't do math. So I want to stay away from anything complicated. Let's not make it complicated. The answers before us. Let's fund what we have, what we got.
So I think you make a great point, and one of the things that is super important is for us to come out of silos. And so I think, you know, a lot of times people are doing this work and it's kind of like a best kept secret. And so we should be seeing everybody's information in the chat, because we definitely need to be working together a whole lot more. Because as Dr. Gale mentioned, these are all of our kids. And when you start looking at it that way, we're all responsible for our kids. So I'll kick it to Dr. Gale.
Thank you so much. And yes, they are all our kids. Very quickly, a couple of things I want to touch on. The arts. In a day and time, especially with decreased funding for education, our superintendent and our board thought it very important to make sure that we kept the extracurricular activities within our school system. Therein, even with all of the challenges and the barriers that we have, those are the types of things that keep some of our kids coming to school. That exposure that you talked about, LaShawn. I also want to talk about something that Casey said when he sat down and he talked to kids. And it's funny, the other day I was mentioning to our superintendent, Rocky Hanna, we need to do a listening tour. We need to go and listen to what kids have to say and just let them know. We did that before the pandemic, but just let them know we want to hear what you have to say. Okay. Put away the titles. Let's just talk. Mentors. Casey said something about kids want discipline. You are absolutely right. Discipline lets them know. Often those kids who are in a chaotic environment, they crave discipline so that they know what's going to happen as a result of this, that, and the other thing. They know that 11 o'clock means we're going to lunch. They know certain things, and that helps to regulate them. In addition to that, he talked about a caring adult. Spot on. If we could get a mentor, okay, and this is a PSA for being a mentor in Leon County schools. If we could get a mentor for every student, whether they, and I call all of our kids scholars, whether they are top performing scholars or whether they're at promise, because I don't call them at risk. I call them at promise, because with the right factors in place, we'll get them to where they need to be. But if we could get a mentor for every child, that would make a difference. Someone that child can talk to and just say, you know, Miss Michelle, I'm just so tired of these people messing with me. I'm about to, clean somebody's clock. No, you can't do that because of this. And when you become a mentor, you have to be committed to coming to see that child 1 hour a week. The research is already there. Okay, most state departments, even private industries, allow 1 hour per week at no cost to any annual time, sick time, or what have you, to invest into a child, pour into a child. Some people may have that same feeling that Willie does. Oh, don't ask me about math. I can't help you. But just sitting down and talking with the child, how's it going? What are the grades looking like? How can I help you? That would make a world of difference. The last thing is, and I agree with Dr. Willie, he talked about it a little bit, connecting with families, okay? Making sure that families, they are part, what I call a pyramid, especially with children, okay? You have the school, absolutely. We are here, we're doing the best that we can. We're trying to get the resources to meet the needs of all of our students. Okay, but we also have families. They have to be a part of the solution. Okay, it's easy to come and say, you did this to my child, you let this happen to my baby. Okay, great. But let's talk about what we can do together. Therein lies the answer. The answers are out there. It's just like Dr. Willie said, providing more funding, more understanding. And part of the reason why, and I'm so thankful for LaShawn, just saying, Doc, you got to be a part of this. You got to be a part of this. A lot of people don't understand the school system. They don't know what's there. You got to be a part of it. And Eric Clark, our executive director for the foundation, he is also a part of UPHS, and so happy to be here. We are willing, able, and ready to partner with any agency And we look for your help because we are, as I tell Superintendent Hannah all the time,
can you guys see it here?
school
These were
system
sort
of
of
this
like
community.
private.
So we are your school system, and we want to be the best system that we can be because we're preparing the leaders of tomorrow. Today, they're sitting in a classroom at a school. Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Dr.
this is, I just want to make one comment. I do have to leave. This is Maisha. How you guys doing? This has been an excellent conversation. I didn't want to stop it. It's so wonderful. I do want to mention that we recently opened the Tallahassee Food Network with our collaboration with the Revitalization Council and some of the neighborhood first plans in the area of Griffin Heights and Fishtown. We have opened up a resource center right in the Springfield area in Griffin Heights, where the Bond Center used to be, the health center. And that center is designed to really talk about the things that you said, to actually put it in place with partners who've already agreed to do many of the things you've discussed on a scheduled basis, using that site as a place to deliver services. We did surveys with the residents to find out what kinds of things they wanted. So everything you talked about, were identified as needs. And so we've identified 22 people or organizations now who can deliver those same services on a scheduled basis. The center is not an administrative office of any sort. It's a place where the services are delivered by schedule. And so those of you who've talked about your work, if you want to make impact, we're working with both of the schools in that area so that we can actually do the mentorship, so we can talk to partner engagement, so we can talk about family involvement as a system of care. You know, families have to be involved. I totally agree, in order to take care of our children's needs. So every aspect of the care you've just decided and talked about today is on our agenda. So we're trying to host a partner meeting. And those of you who are interested in participating, please let me know, because this is for us a chance to use one place in time, Griffin Heights community, as a way to build upon what you're saying and see how that model can work.
Thank you, Miss Maisha. So if you don't know Miss Maisha, you need to. She is what I call one of our community mothers, who paved the way for people like me who could have easily went the other way with my little at-risk self. But one of those community mothers, and so we'll make sure you get information, because she's doing, Willie over there laughing, she's doing great work in the Frenchtown community and has been on the battlefield for a really, really long time. I want to go to Miss Alice, and then after Miss Alice, we'll go to Miss Anita Whitney Davis, who's wearing two hats today. So Miss Alice.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Just a moment. I want to just piggyback on what Dr. Williams said earlier when he was talking about, see, because many of us, when we leave from our professions, what we do, many of us go and put on our tennis shoes and everything, and we're lifetime volunteers. We volunteer in the community. And the reason I want to touch on volunteers, because that is a driving force for the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. I don't know about many of you, but we value volunteers. So we have what we call the Restoring Hope Community Network. It's a network of about 240 partners. Our coordinator is Ms. Leroy Smith McLaughlin. And what we do with that network, those volunteers do some amazing things. They're comprised of faith partners. We haven't talked about that, but our faith community is interwoven in our communities. They do so much when it comes to working with our children and our families. We got community partners coming together. And so this network, let me give you one thing that they've been doing. Last year during the holidays, they wrote letters of hope for our children that are in the juvenile detention centers and in the residential programs. Just imagine the trauma. We've been talking about the trauma. Just imagine the trauma of these young people who are away from their families during the holidays in a residential program, in a detention facility, and they cannot have that touch and that relationship with their families. Well, these dedicated volunteers with the Restoring Hope Community Network took the time to handwrite beautiful cards, letters, and sent them to those children to encourage them for the holidays. I mean, that is one of the things that we do. And when you think about these volunteers, just imagine how we can really tap into the resources that they have. And so volunteers are huge for us. The other thing I want to mention, someone mentioned about mentoring. So in January, we will be launching our One Mentor, One Child. And just like Dr. Gale, Dr. Williams, and everybody, Mr. Casey, everyone talked about these children. Examine your life. All of us had someone who was instrumental in our success. A teacher, a coach, being a former athlete. I had many coaches poured into my life. These young people need opportunities. They just need somebody to say, I'll take a little time out to make an impact in these children's lives as a mentor, as a coach, as a life coach. And so we're launching our One Mentor, One Child in 2022, where we will be asking people joining with Volunteer Florida to have one mentor for every child that needs it with the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice. And that's what we're launching in 2021. And the final thing I want to say is, in October last month, we held our Restoring Hope Summit, our DJJ Restoring Hope Summit in Orlando. Our theme was promoting mental and behavioral health awareness. And I will tell you, we had over 450 people there, community partners, stakeholders, talking about this subject of mental illness, mental health. Let's face it, many of our children that we serve in the Department of Juvenile Justice are faced with mental illness, mental issues in their parents, in their guardians, with the children, and we have to address that issue. And we brought all of these practitioners together to talk about that subject. And next year, our theme will be centered around breaking the stigma of mental health. Because what we find is many people of color, minority families, they have a stigma with mental health services. We got to break those chains. We got to break those things down, because as a personal trainer myself, mental health is just as important as physical health. We'll go to the doctor. If we have cancer, if we have diabetes, we'll go to the doctor. But when it comes down to mental health, mental illness, we say, oh, we're going to pray about it. God going to fix it. We need to promote. We need to get this message out to these families that it's okay not to be okay sometimes, and get the help that you need. And so you can see I'm very passionate about it, because we're losing our families. We're losing our children to suicide and things like that. We have to be committed to getting that message out that it's okay to not be okay, and that mental health services is just as important as physical health services.
Thank you, Ms. Alice. And yes, ma'am, we can definitely hear your passion. I want to go to Miss Anita Whitby Davis, and then we'll go to Antoine. I see his hand up as well. So Anita, take it away.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gordon, for having me here today. I want to thank you, Amber and Catherine, for all of the work that you do, and for allowing there to be platforms like this to discuss these very important topics. Well, first and foremost, I am wearing two hats today. I am the Title I parent and community liaison for Governor's Charter Academy. I went into this role several years ago and began working inside of the school to work with families and students to see what best services we could partner with. One of the best choices we did make was partnering with UPHS, so that we could make sure that our parents were truly receiving the services that they needed, not what we thought they needed, but what they did need and what they could come to us and talk about. And those opportunities have allowed us to partner with some of the most talented community partners that support our parents day in and day out. And they're just a phone call away for our students and their parents. I do wear another hat as well. I am the CEO of Blautism Inc., which is a 501(c), and also Blautism Education. I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Ms. Sims was saying a little bit earlier. Our particular nonprofit is designed to raise awareness of the platform of, if you don't gather it, Black autism, right? We are parents of an autistic son. Our middle son is on the spectrum, and this particular nonprofit was created in the honor of my mother, who, like Ms. Talbot, was one of those special teachers that worked with children on different varied neurological exceptionalities, I should say. So many years ago, we learned that mental health is a stigma culturally for many diverse cultures, right? We don't often have those conversations at the table. And so it hits on in a number of different areas, because if early intervention, which I see in the schools, a lot of times we don't want our children tested, we don't want to have that conversation, we don't want them labeled, but it leads to misdiagnoses of behavioral issues that then lead to children being misdiagnosed for not having the early intervention to help them cope with the mental health issues that they're having, or have not had the proper testing or structured therapies that are necessary, right? So the mental health issues don't just start when they become teenagers, middle school, right? They don't start when they're in high school. And if there has not been a recorded historical recording of them having these concerns and challenges, is what I like to call them. I believe there's power in words. So we don't call them, just behavioral issues. There are challenges, right? Because they're processes, as our son on the spectrum likes to tell us, Mom, y'all are atypical and we're neurodiverse. So in neurodiverse minds, we just work differently. And so a lot of times I have found, and I've worked with some of the parents, even in our school, to have those testings, the testing that is necessary for their children, to have the mental health evaluations. And we sometimes find that they're in groups of families, but because we don't want to have those conversations and we don't want to talk about them, they later lead to problems where they end up in the court system, or they end up having behavioral issues in the classroom. So our organization believes in definitely coming along and walking along the paths with families so that they can make this conversation a little less challenging. And so that they understand that our children are just different. There's not a disease that, will ultimately end up in this stigma of sorts, because we have that in our society. We sometimes look at differences as something wrong. But especially, and I can only speak from my vantage point, we need to raise the awareness on many platforms for families of color. We don't want to have those conversations. And it is a cultural thing. And I'm not saying it's a bad cultural thing, because a lot of it came from historically just trying to protect children in certain settings. But it's okay now. To have these conversations, to bring awareness, and to most definitely utilize the community partners that we have to protect our children. Because if we don't do it on the front end, we find ourselves sitting in those courtrooms or sitting in those detention centers. And truly, that is not where that discussion or those types of issues should come up. It's okay. That's our son right there. He was looking for his cat, his therapy cat. And so that's real life, right? And so we like having that, and it has helped a great deal even at our school. Some of our parents that have chosen school choice over to a charter school did it because they knew that their children were a little different, right? And in a smaller setting, we can have those discussions where we can say, okay, so let's do this testing. And Mom, okay, it's okay to grieve. There's a natural progression of what happens. It's okay to cry. It's okay. But then we've got work to do. As my mom say, you can cry, but you can't quit. So we've got work to do. And that is who we are. So any of you who definitely want to reach out to those parents that need those services, let us know, because that's what we were designed to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Anita. So it's everything you're saying is spot on. And when I first met Anita, I didn't even know that there was a nonprofit that was specifically supporting Black children with autism. And so this is one of the reasons why we have to come out of the silos, because we have to know what's out there. So I'm going to kick it over to Antoine, and then we're going to give each one of our panelists the opportunity to give their final thoughts. So Antoine, take it away.
Good morning, guys. Number one, as a United Partners board member, Amber and LaShawn, outstanding job on putting this together. And thank you to all of our panelists for coming, and everybody who's in attendance. I think this is a really dynamic and important conversation. And it's been really refreshing to kind of recharge the battery to even hear that we are still, as Dr. Willie says, still the soldiers who are standing. So just wanted to say a couple points. For us at Habitat, everybody always thinks about houses that we build, but all of houses have families, and probably 90% of our families have children. So we're active no matter how we look at it in what's going on with the children in our community. Additionally, we have some campus chapters in some of our local high schools. And just prior to COVID, we're looking to expand that more, and that would be everything that you kind of think of along the lines of SHOP or how you build a house, but also credit, financing, things like that. What it takes to buy a home. Some of the financial fitness conversations that we don't really have with our children, no matter what background you come from. It just isn't taught in schools. And then we see in the human services arena, people fell through the cracks because they didn't have some tools. So we can help in that space. Imagine if our kids learned how to improve their credit rating and worked on it with some tiny credit card or partnership with one of the credit unions and graduated high school or college with the 800 credit score because we were intentional in helping them to do that. The other thing that we've been doing in the last year or so, Habitat's kind of the perfect classroom. One of the things we do when we get together, it doesn't matter who you are, we teach you how to build. You don't have to come with any skills or anything like that. Our team is going to show you how to help us build the house, do it productively and safely. And so that classroom aspect, we realize we can kind of roll over into some of our kids. When we talk about prevention, having them be active, have that adult, that is in their ear, that mentor piece that just repeated from earlier is priceless. So we have actually started in the last year using the program, partnering with Career Source to kind of do a mini on-the-job training program. And I say program very loosely because it's not really a program. It's just something that we are doing with our partners. And we kind of prepared for it, but I was amazed in how unprepared we were. Like the amount of trauma that some of our youth have, the amount of experiences, gaps, the amount of other folks that we really need to kind of reach out to. And we thought that we were prepared, right? And so that leads me kind of to my actual question, and hopefully this will be part of something that was on the agenda anyway for this call. But is there a clearinghouse for all of the work that we are doing, all of the folks that are on this call, all of the programs that are doing prevention in one way, shape, or form, whether it's sports or theater? Is there a clearinghouse that we, particularly in our agency, when we see some kids or run across kids that need some sort of services beyond what we have, or even some of our families, that we can kind of point them to and catch them early? Because we all only have a certain amount of capacity.
So that's a great question. And one of the things that we've actually talked about, UPHS is rounding out close to 100 entities that service youth in some shape, form, or fashion. And so through our youth task force, we've talked about putting together that directory. And after today, it's evident that we need to bump that up on the list a little bit. So thank you for asking that question and kind of putting that to the top of the task force to-do list, because it is. I'm seeing people put their information in the chat, and even some of the stuff you just shared, I'm like, that's amazing. Oh my God, yes. Kids can use their hands, kids can get a skill. So yeah, great question.
Absolutely. And LaShawn, one thing I'll add, to the entire group, and a lot of you, we've already had some of these conversations, but we are totally committed to collaborating and partnering with anyone in any way on this call. We have an excellent outdoor classroom. We have an excellent way to help people or kids particularly use their hands. And what we already do is teach. So if there's any way that we can help any of you guys at all, please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you for all you do. So we're going to kind of close out with last minute remarks from all of our panelists. Dr. Willie and I were just talking yesterday, you know, we have big work to do. So this is just one conversation of many things that we need to do. And I heard focus groups with kids, and I heard some other things. And so this kind of serves as a baseline for doing some much bigger work. I'm going to start with Casey. Casey, last thoughts.
Yes, last thoughts from me is that once again, this is just a tremendously beneficial forum for all of us to be on today. And I think that one of the big ideas is for all of us to work together. There's a lot of crossover in a lot of the services that we provide. If we can all work together, we can provide a lot of those experiences that are really changed our kids' lives. The talk that I had with the kids, that was one of the other things that they really mentioned. They want to have those experiences. They enjoy, you know, going out, but they want to do things they enjoy doing. So like we're taking the kids to, you know, partnerships with Blue Halo. We're taking, you know, 300 kids to Blue Halo to, you know, have an extremely nice dinner, someplace that they've never been, to kind of open their minds, to give them experiences that they've never had before, would not have if it weren't for all of us coming together to create those experiences for our kids. So my last thought is we just got to work together. I think there's a lot of crossover, and if we work together, we can definitely save our kids' lives, and I'm all for it.
Thank you so much. Dr. Willie.
Yeah, LaShawn, I think it's all been said. If I could just leave off on a quote, if we can keep our heads when everyone else around us is losing theirs, and we know the rest of that quote, our work with our youth, we must keep our heads, but we need to collaborate and we need to unite. And so I'm looking forward to that list coming out, LaShawn. Anybody on this call that has not got with UPHS, you've had a taste of what they offer, and we need to get together and we need to collaborate, because there's a lot of work to do. A lot of people don't know how many youth actually live in Tallahassee, because they're overshadowed a lot of times by the government and the universities and football. But there are a lot of youth in Tallahassee alone, and then we got those that come from the neighboring counties, Quincy and Gadsden, and so we got a lot of work to do, people. So let's get to work.
Thank you. Dr. Gale.
I agree with Dr. Willie. It's all been said. I'm looking forward to that list. The solutions are out there. We just need to collaborate, work together, because they're all our kids. Charter schools, our public schools, private schools, specialized schools, they're all our kids. I'm looking forward to, after the holidays, we're going to go back on our listening tour in Leon County schools, where we meet with a diverse group of kids and just take that, listen, not try and solve, just listen, and then get all the information together and then put some things together. So I look forward to that list. I look forward to continuing to work. I'm so thankful for LaShawn. She had been on me for like 2 years, and it's like, let me go ahead and join this thing. And I'm so happy that I did. Here in Leon County Schools, I put my information there. If you need additional information, email is the best way to get me. And I promise you, I'll be back in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Alice, closing remarks.
Yes. So first of all, Miss LaShawn and UPHS, thank you all so much for the invitation. This is so amazing. And I want to thank everybody on the call, because you are truly heartbeats in your community. You are heartbeats and subject matter experts with what you do. And I want to thank you for being on my team, because without you, we could not serve the children and families that we serve. And I want to leave this final thought. You have to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. You talk about mental health, we talk about all the physical things. We have to take care of ourselves. We're going to be the best that we can be. When we take care of us, then we can serve others. So please keep that in mind.
Thank you. Mr. Leroy, final thoughts.
Again, like everyone stated, it's a blessing to be on the call. I've learned a lot of what you guys do, and I hope you guys learn about what I do. My final thought is social media management. Social media management. And this is an area that we've tapped in our organization because a lot of these things, a lot of mental stress, depression, fights, everything starts on social media. So if we drive that social media management to our kids, this can help with the mental health. This could help with the problems. This could help with a lot of things because we can't save them from social media. They're in that environment every day. So I would say social media management.
Awesome. Thank you. Duly noted. And you make a great point. Thank you. Miss Jessica. And Jessica, I'm going to connect you and Mr. David Van Williams because he has a unique program that I think would benefit a lot of kids where they could do some civil citation work. But Jessica, closing thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate that, LaShawn. I'll just say this specifically, you know, from my vantage point, this is an incredible opportunity to truly change the lives of the children that all of us serve. My ask would be for all of our community partners, I'm looking forward to the list, but when you all see these cases, right, when you read it on the news, when you see it on social media, when you see some kid's been arrested somewhere, please call me because I know that you have direct relationships with these kids before we've gotten them, and that is going to make all of the difference in the final outcome of their allegation. So I've put my email there. LaShawn has my cell phone. I mean it. Please call me when you see that, you know, these kids have come into contact with the criminal legal system, because trust me, I am committed to getting them out of it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Well, this has been some amazing conversation. A couple people asked before, what's the agenda? And we didn't want to have a set agenda because this is when you get true, authentic conversation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Stay tuned. Darian, we appreciate your comments and all the other comments in the chat. We will certainly be in touch because our kids are worth it. You all be safe. And if we don't see you before Thanksgiving, we will see you soon. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.